Okay, so here is another quick update. All right, clean this all up. This all came out really nice. This is I sanded it down, evened up the plywood with the outside laminate here. Just very carefully, you know. I kept taking my trim piece, putting it on here, you know, sizing it up, making sure everything was okay. You know, making sure I'm leaving myself plenty of room for gasket. All right, don't want to take too much off of the outer skin. All right, so this really came out nice. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here. Let's go to the inside. Okay, so this I took all my clamps off. This is like I said, I put blue pigment, the same color as the boat, into my thickened epoxy resin when I glued it in. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a fillet all the way around here, so I can begin to tab this in. It's already glued in and it's in here good. I mean, it's solid. This is a big step, because this was the most complicated part of doing this. If I had to do this all over again, I would probably just put a 3/4 piece in, and then after it was all laminated in, I would probably just put like a couple of blocks right here to give me some reinforcement for the tow hooks on the outside, and probably drill all my holes once the whole thing's in too. But here's another thing, is this is where the exhaust hole is. So I originally screwed the exhaust hole up on both sides because I didn't have a hole saw that was deep enough, so I came in from both sides and they didn't totally meet evenly. So I think one of the tips that I gave before was, if you're going to have a drill, even with a hole saw, make sure it's deep enough to go all the way through. Okay, but it's going to work out anyway, because I actually want this hole bigger than it's ultimately going to be, because this is a major intrusion point for water. So I want to make sure that I get resin all the way around here, and to insulate the transom from seawater. Okay, so how am I going to do that? Pretty simple. Here's one of the through the exhaust pipes. Okay, I'm gonna bolt this thing in like this. Okay, I'm gonna put plastic tape around it, because the resin really doesn't stick to the tape. All right, so once I have that in there, you can see that I have a gap all the way around. I'm gonna hold it in from the outside, actually. Okay, so you can see there's a gap around that pipe. I'm gonna stuff that with resin, with thickened epoxy, so this is actually going to be, you know, help me. It's going to be like a form. So I'm going to put the cellophane tape around it, and then that'll keep the epoxy from sticking to the pipe. So once it starts to dry, when I'm confident it's setting up, I'm going to carefully work this thing out of here, and then I'll have a hole. Then there'll be enough epoxy. You get the point. The pipe is going to pass through the epoxy instead of right through the wood. Okay, so if any water does get in here, there's going to be a certain thickness of epoxy for it to get through before it ever contacts the wood. So that's it. I think that's a pretty good tip. You know, down in here, if you remember, there was a little recess here. Before I put this in, I totally stuffed this with thickened epoxy resin, and then I just, you know, right down in there, just bedded it right down into the epoxy, and proceeded to clamp this thing to the transom. So we're doing pretty good. This is really nice. This is really super nice. I still have to seal it up. I do have to seal this up, and you know, again, I'm going to continue to adhere to the principle of drilling my holes bigger than they're ultimately going to be. I'm going to fill them with resin, drill a smaller hole right through it, and that way all of my bolts will be passing through resin instead of through plywood. All right, but this one here. See the gap? that's going to be filled with resin. All right. And then I'm going to pull this out. And then I'm going to put it back in. Okay. So big fillets, that's what we're going to do around here next. All the way around, all the way around. Let's see if I can get a picture here. That's what it's looking like so far. All right. Looking pretty good.